Hello and welcome. You're watching NDTV 24/7. I'm Osama Shab. India is mourning the loss of one of its most revered leaders, Dr. Manmohan Singh, who passed away on Friday night. Thursday night, former Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh, widely recognized as the architect of India's economic reforms, especially since the early 1990s. He passed away in Delhi. He was 92 years old. A 7-day state mourning has been declared and all flags are flying at half-mast.
The service of the people of India is a great honor and a great privilege. And let me say, I have enjoyed every moment of it. माना कि तेरी दीद के काबिल नहीं हूँ मैं. माना कि तेरी दीद के काबिल नहीं हूँ मैं. तू मेरा शौक तो देख, मेरा इंतजार देख.
The end of an era. Leaders across party lines visiting Dr. Manmohan Singh's house to pay their last respects. Manmohan Singh, known widely as the architect of modern Indian economy and then as Prime Minister, leading the UPA government between 2004 and 14. He died on Thursday night at the age of 92 due to age-related medical complications. He'd been in poor health for the last few months. The Prime Minister in his statement said Manmohan Singh's contributions to the nation's growth were unparalleled and that he had dedicated his life to reforms.
वित्तीय संकट से घिरे देश को एक नई अर्थव्यवस्था के मार्ग पर प्रशस्त किया. प्रधानमंत्री के रूप में देश के विकास में और प्रगति में उनके योगदान को हमेशा याद किया जाएगा.
माना कि तेरी दीद के काबिल नहीं हूँ मैं. तू मेरा शौक तो देख, मेरा इंतजार देख.
Dr. Singh had retired from public life and given up his Rajya Sabha seat earlier this year, but for the Congress, his legacy and impact on the party was unparalleled.
Look, I remember him with a great deal of respect and a great deal of affection. I think he was a great Prime Minister and a wonderful human being. And those are the things that one has to cherish. He pulled 10 million people out of poverty every year. He did so much in terms of his contribution to this nation. He kept us free from the global financial crisis when other countries were going under. He created so many laws that have benefited people, including the famous Manrega scheme.
Several monikers like the reluctant politician and the accidental Prime Minister were used for Dr. Manmohan Singh. But in the face of all the criticism that he faced, Dr. Singh's self-effacing nature and steadfast honesty always stood out.
My question is very simple and straightforward on the issue. I know there have been a lot of questions on corruption, on various other issues, but personally for you, many will accuse you, as you said, history has to be kind and look at you and you'll come out unscathed. But many will look at you personally as being unable to actually act or rein in your own cabinet ministers. The fact that you allowed a situation to go out of hand, that you failed to act politically, which was required, and that you kept going back to a co-group or to various other people but refused to act, and that is why we came to a stage where even the Supreme Court asked the Prime Minister's office and even indicted it for various acts of omission and commission. So how do you respond to that politically, and how do you see your legacy because of the failure of you to act in a
Well, I honestly believe that history will be kinder to me than the contemporary media or the or for that matter the opposition parties in parliament.
Top international leaders and dignitaries also paid their respects to Dr. Manmohan Singh. Former US President Barack Obama credited him with modernizing India's economy. French President Emmanuel Macron remembered him as a man who had devoted his life to his country. Angela Merkel, the former German Chancellor, said that Dr. Singh's primary aim was to improve the living standards in rural India. 7 days national mourning has been declared for Dr. Singh, and his last rites will be conducted on Saturday with state honours. NDTV Bureau Report.
And India also remembers the reforms brought about by Dr. Manmohan Singh during his tenure as the finance minister. Listen in to what the former principal secretary to Dr. Singh, T.K. Nair, had to say.
The country, even today, remembers the path-breaking reforms he brought about while he was a finance minister. During those days, he literally opened the country to foreign investment and foreign capital, which would go a long way in building industry and infrastructure in the country. At times he was perhaps misunderstood, but all the time he kept in mind what he believed to be in the interest of the country and its people. The many very path-breaking programs and policies that he initiated, which are continuing even today, maybe under different names with different shades, they stand ample testimony to his vision and his service to the people. We remember that one of the most outstanding achievements of the UPA government under him was the introduction of the legislation providing employment to the rural people. The Rural Employment Guarantee Program, which continues even today, was a great contribution which recognized the importance of providing gainful employment to the large number of our rural people. Similarly, programs, Food for Work program and other programs which are directed against them or directed at the poorer sections of society, they all are thanks to the initiative taken by Dr. Manmohan Singh. At the same time, while initiating these path-breaking reforms, he made it a point to make sure that the credit for these schemes and the credit for the good work that the government is being done is not appropriated by him. He was a true Democrat. He believed in sharing, his responsibilities and also the credit that goes with the fulfillment of those responsibilities with his cabinet colleagues. He believed in building consensus among his colleagues and then only go ahead with programs. This may have taken a process, consultative process in a democracy, takes a little time, but their effect and impact would be lasting. So, to the democratic processes in India, Dr. Manmohan Singh's contribution is most memorable, just as his contribution in the economic field.
And earlier, my colleague Maria Shakil, she spoke to Dr. Abhishek Manu Singhvi, a senior advocate and a Congress MP. Listen in.
Dr. Singh, we appreciate your time. Manmohan Singh himself said that democracy is not just a form of government, it is an article of faith for our people. You worked closely with Dr. Manmohan Singh. Did you find him democratic in his functioning and approach?
Innately so, inherently so. His very nature, his very character, his persona was so inclusive, so gentle, so soft, that he could not but be democratic. He was genetically democratic, I think. And though he never made, glamour, form, sensationalism, ostentation, drama, etc., his calling cards, fakeness, hypocrisy, empty rhetoric, he worked with a quiet solidity to build consensus on every issue. So as far as your democracy question is concerned, he would start any issue by consultation, by getting his viewpoints. But then, once he was convinced of a particular view, you'd be surprised at his inner tensile strength. Inner tensile strength was great. He was no walkover, he was no pushover. His ask list and his ambition list was not high. But when he chose his points and he wanted to do them, he would stand firm. And time and again, I have believed that other entities, including the party, has given in much more to his choices than the other way around, a commonly misconceived notion.
And the former US ambassador to India, Kenneth Ian Juster, he spoke to my colleague Mario Shakil earlier in the day on Dr. Manmohan Singh. Listen in.
Ambassador Kenneth Juster is joining us. Ambassador Juster, I appreciate your time here on NDTV. Of course, one of the most, long-lasting memories of Dr. Manmohan Singh and has been his legacy was the crucial Indo-US civil nuclear deal. As someone who would have worked with Dr. Manmohan Singh at some stage, what are your memories of him and why do you think the world is remembering him today?
Well, thank you very much. And I was very saddened to hear about the death of Dr. Manmohan Singh, the Prime Minister of India, and also formerly a finance minister who had been instrumental in the economic reforms of 1991. I was involved during the George W. Bush administration in the process of transforming U.S.-India relations and was fortunate to be at the White House in July of 2005 when Dr. Singh, or Prime Minister Singh, and President Bush signed the framework agreement for the civil nuclear deal. There was a state dinner that evening, and I found myself for a few minutes alone with President Bush and Prime Minister Singh, and it was a very moving moment of these two courageous leaders really tackling an issue that needed to be addressed but had been on the sidelines for such a long period of time. The negotiations then turned into a over 3-year arduous process, as often is the case in negotiations between our two countries. But I commend Prime Minister Singh for his strength and courage in moving forward and taking the issue to the parliament in India and ultimately prevailing.
And Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge has reached out to the Prime Minister as well as the Home Minister, making a heartfelt request on behalf of the Indian National Congress. He believes that a true tribute to the late Dr. Manmohan Singh would be to perform his last rites with full state honors and establish a memorial in his name. A gesture the Congress is hoping would be a fitting recognition of Dr. Manmohan Singh's contributions to the nation.
Already I have written a letter to Prime Minister regarding this funeral event, and that is in public domain. Kindly take that, and that is my message, nothing else. Yes.
Well, it's going to be a state funeral, and he will leave his residence at 8 o'clock to come to the Congress headquarters, where he will lay in state for Congress workers and others, well-wishers, to pay their last respects before he makes that journey to Nigombod Ghat. This, after all, after you saw an unforeseen controversy of Dr. Manmohan Singh's final resting place, the Congress Party wanting India's first Sikh Prime Minister to be given a befitting farewell and wanting him to be along the Rajghat and a memorial where structure could be done so that various people could come and pay their respects for him in the years to go by. But that being said, the government has denied that for whatever reasons they have done. And you have seen Sukhbir Singh Badal, who has said that this is an insult to the Sikh community. The Congress Party has also said that. Mr. Kharge had written a letter. But be that as it may, I think the family and the government have been in touch, and they have decided to give a state funeral to him in Gugambodh. Dr. Manmohan Singh, the man who I knew would have last wanted the controversy over his, final resting place, and we leave it at that. But what has been followed for former prime ministers, I think, should have been done in this case. But that being the kind of politics and the kind of breakdown that we have between the government and the opposition, this was expected to have happened in the present regime.
Welcome back. The Madras High Court took suo motu cognizance of the alleged sexual assault of a second-year engineering student inside the Anna University campus in Chennai. Madras High Court stepped in after allegations of police lapses in Anna University's sexual assault case over leaking the FIR, revealing victims' identity. The advocates demanded action for student safety and a CBI probe as well. Tamil Nadu BJP chief K. Annamalai has staged a unique agitation in Coimbatore following this incident, flogging himself and condemning the ruling DMK and the state police over the handling of this case.
எந்த பாதுகாப்பும் இல்லாத ஒரு சூழ்நிலை இருக்கின்றது. தமிழகத்தில் பல்வேறு மாவட்டத்தில் இருந்து மாணவிகள் அண்ணா பல்கலைக்கழகத்திலே பொறியியல் படித்து வருகிறார்கள். அவர்களுக்கு என்ன பாதுகாப்பு இருக்கின்றது? இன்றைய தினம் பெற்றோர்கள் அச்சப்படுகின்றார்கள். அரசை நம்பித்தான் அந்த பெற்றோர்கள் மாணவி அண்ணா பல்கலைக்கழக பொறியியல் கல்லூரியை படிக்க வைக்கின்றார்கள்.
8 people were killed when a bus fell off a bridge amid heavy rain in Punjab's Bhatinda on Friday. The bridge had no railings, which could have prevented the bus from falling into the Nala below. Officials said the bus carrying over 20 passengers was headed to Bhatinda from Talwandi Sabu. Local residents, they rushed to the spot to help and rescue people and were joined by teams from the police and local administration.
इसमें कुल अनफॉर्चुनेटली 8 लोगों की मौत हुई है, जिसमें से 5 जो है वो तलवंडी सापो जो हमारा सिविल हॉस्पिटल है वहाँ पे, उनमें एक 2 साल की बच्ची है, एक 3 फीमेल्स है और एक मेल है। और इसके अलावा यहाँ पे जो अपना सिविल हॉस्पिटल बठिंडा है, इसमें 3 लोगों की मौत हुई है। उन 3 में से हमारे पास 2 मेल है, जिसमें कि एक हैंडीकैप्ड है और एक फीमेल। तो अभी तक लगभग 8 में से 5 की शिनाख्त हुई है, बाकी 3 की अभी तक शिनाख्त नहीं हो पाई है। जब शिनाख्त हो जाएगी तो उनके भी हम उनकी फैमिली या परिवार वालों के साथ में करेंगे। बस थोड़ी तेज़ चल रही थी और दूसरी साइड से एक ट्रॉला भी आ गया, जिसकी वजह से ड्राइवर जो है वो उसको कंट्रोल में नहीं रख पाया और नीचे में गिर गया।
Akasa Air is facing more trouble as the Directorate General of Civil Aviation has cracked down on the airline's top brass. Reports indicate that Akasa's Director of Operations and Director of Training, they have been suspended due to lapses in pilots' training. The DGCA's action comes after Akasa Air pilots raised concerns about safety and training practices. The pilots alleged that the airline's management was prioritizing profits over safety and that they were being pressured to fly even when they were unwell. In the meanwhile, the Akasa Air has issued a statement saying that we will continue to work with the DGCA and that safety is of utmost importance and that we will strive to pursue the highest standards of safety.
A fairly serious development as far as flight safety in this country is concerned. The aviation regulator, the Directorate General of Civil Aviation, has ordered the Director Training of Akasa Airways to be suspended for a period of 6 months. This is because of improper standards being maintained for, as I understand it, pilot training. Akasa has been using a certain set of simulators to train their pilots in certain circumstances, in certain configurations. Those simulators, the DGCA says, are not certified for the training that was carried out. They've also said that in addition to suspending the director training for 6 months, they want to get the name of another director training who would take over. Now, we've reached out to the airline as well, and they've responded, and they've said that safety is a concern for them and that they are complying with the orders of India's aviation regulator.
Delhi has been experiencing heavy rainfall, with the city recording its highest December rainfall in 15 years. The rain began late Thursday and continued throughout Friday, causing waterlogging and traffic snarls in many areas. The total rainfall for December stands at 42.8 millimeters, marking the highest rainfall this month in the last 15 years. As a result of the rain, the GRAP 3, that is the Graded Response Action Plan, has been revoked. And heavy snowfall has brought Jammu and Kashmir to a standstill, with vehicles trapped and power supplies severely impacted. Authorities have issued an advisory warning citizens of the hazardous conditions. Meanwhile, the Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister, he has assured that they are closely monitoring the situation and are in touch with the administration to ensure prompt relief measures. The snowfall has resulted in vehicles being stranded as well. That's all we have for you. Keep watching NDTV.